Deep in the heart of a dark, whispering forest stood a house unlike any other. Its walls made of gingerbread, its roof lined with sugar, and windows that sparkled like candy. To any hungry soul, it was a dream come true. But to Hansel and Gretel, it would become a nightmare they would never forget. Once, they were just two innocent children, a brother and sister who had nothing but each other in a world that had turned cold and cruel. Abandoned by their parents, betrayed by hunger, and tested by fear, they learned that sometimes the sweetest things in life can hide the darkest dangers. Their story is not just about a witch, or a candy house, or a terrible trick. It's about survival, love, and the courage to face evil when all hope seems lost. This is the sad, haunting tale of Hansel and Gretel, a story that begins with hunger and ends with heartbreak. Once upon a time, in a poor village surrounded by thick forests, lived a woodcutter and his two children, Hansel and Gretel. The family had always struggled, but when a terrible famine swept through the land, even a loaf of bread became a treasure. The woodcutter's wife, the children's stepmother, grew bitter with every empty day. "We have nothing left," she hissed one night. "If those children were gone, we might survive." The father lowered his head in silence. He loved his children, but fear had made him weak. That night, Hansel overheard everything. He woke his sister, whispering, "Don't cry, Gretel. I'll take care of us." He slipped outside and filled his pockets with white pebbles that shone in the moonlight. The next morning, their stepmother led them deep into the woods. Hansel quietly dropped a pebble every few steps, leaving a shining trail behind. When night fell and the adults were gone, the forest came alive with shadows. Gretel trembled, but Hansel pointed to the glowing path. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "The moon will lead us home." And for one night, it did. When the children returned home, their father wept with relief. But the stepmother's heart hardened even more. Days passed, and the famine grew worse. "There is nothing left to eat," she shouted. "We must take them deeper into the forest this time." Hansel tried to gather more pebbles, but the door was locked. So he took crumbs from the last piece of bread and dropped them as they walked. Deeper and deeper they went until the trees swallowed the sky. Their stepmother left them again, and this time the forest seemed to whisper their names. When night fell, Hansel looked for the crumbs, but they were gone. The birds had eaten them all. Gretel began to cry. "We'll never find our way home," she sobbed. Hansel hugged her tightly. "We'll keep walking. There must be something ahead." They wandered for days, tired, hungry, and hopeless, until one morning, through the mist, they saw a strange glimmer. A cottage stood ahead, shining with sugar and sweet frosting. "Look, Gretel," Hansel whispered, smiling weakly. "We're saved." But the forest stayed silent, as if it already knew the truth. The candy house sparkled like a dream. The walls were made of cake, the roof dripped with caramel, and the windows glistened with sugar glass. Unable to resist, Hansel broke off a piece of the roof and Gretel tasted a sugar flower. "Nibble. Nibble, little mouse! Who is nibbling at my house?" A voice suddenly croaked. The children froze. The door creaked open, and there stood an old woman, bent and wrinkled, her eyes sharp and glittering. "Poor dears," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You must be starving." Come in, come in." Inside, the table was filled with food, milk, cakes, fruits, and sweets. The children ate until they could eat no more. That night, they slept in soft beds for the first time in weeks. But when morning came, everything changed. The old woman's kindness vanished. "You thought you could eat my house for free?" she hissed. With terrifying strength, she dragged Hansel into a cage. "Feed him," she ordered Gretel. "When he's fat enough, I'll eat him." Gretel's scream echoed through the forest. Days turned into weeks. The witch forced Gretel to cook and clean while Hansel sat trapped behind iron bars. Each day, the witch would say, "Boy, stretch out your finger so I can feel if you're ready to eat." But Hansel was clever. Knowing the witch was half blind, he stretched out a chicken bone instead. "Still too thin," the witch grumbled. At night, Gretel would sneak to her brother's cage. "Hold on," she whispered. We'll find a way. The witch grew impatient. Tomorrow, she said one morning, whether he's fat or thin, I'll feast. Gretel trembled as the witch built up the fire in the oven. Check if it's hot enough, girl, the witch commanded. Gretel glanced inside. I don't know how, she said softly. Foolish child, snapped the witch, shoving her closer. It's like this. And with one quick motion, Gretel pushed her straight into the flames. The witch screamed as fire filled the room, then silence. Hansel's cage burst open. Gretel ran to him, tears streaming down her face. It's over, Hansel, she whispered. We're free. They searched the witch's house and found chests filled with pearls and gold coins. Gretel gasped. Look, Hansel, we'll never be poor again. They stuffed their pockets with treasures and stepped outside. The forest was quiet now, peaceful. But they still didn't know the way home. For days they wandered through the trees, guided only by sunlight and faith. Finally, they came to a river too wide to cross. A white swan floated nearby. Please, Gretel whispered, help us. The swan lowered its wings, and the children climbed on. It carried them gently to the other side. When they reached the edge of the forest, Hansel saw smoke rising in the distance. It's our village, he said. Their father stood outside the house, thin and pale. When he saw them, he fell to his knees, crying. My children, I thought I'd lost you forever. Gretel handed him the pearls. We're home now, father, but the stepmother was gone. Some said she vanished the same night the witch burned, as if the darkness had claimed its own. They searched the witch's house and found chests filled with pearls and gold coins. Gretel gasped. Look, Hansel, we'll never be poor again. They stuffed their pockets with treasures and stepped outside. The forest was quiet now, peaceful. But they still didn't know the way home. For days they wandered through the trees, guided only by sunlight and faith. Finally, they came to a river too wide to cross. A white swan floated nearby. Please, Gretel whispered, help us. The swan lowered its wings, and the children climbed on. It carried them gently to the other side. When they reached the edge of the forest, Hansel saw smoke rising in the distance. It's our village, he said. Their father stood outside the house, thin and pale. When he saw them, he fell to his knees, crying. My children, I thought I'd lost you forever. Gretel handed him the pearls. We're home now, father, but the stepmother was gone. Some said she vanished the same night the witch burned, as if the darkness had claimed its own. The family lived in peace after that day. The gold never ran out, but more importantly, neither did their love. Hansel and Gretel grew strong and kind. They shared their food with the poor and rebuilt their father's home. Yet at night, Gretel sometimes woke with a start, hearing faint whispers of the forest or the crackle of a fire. Hansel would comfort her, saying, It's over now. But she always wondered, was the witch just one woman? Or the darkness inside every greedy heart? Years later, they planted a tree beside the well where their mother had once spoken cruel words. Its branches grew wide, its roots deep. Beneath it, they placed a stone carved with the words, Love and courage will always find the way home. And though their tale began in hunger and sorrow, it ended in hope. A reminder to all who hear it that even in the darkest forest, a spark of kindness can light the path home. End.